Okay, this is day 159, part two, and this is the latest version from America Intelligence Media, which I have a great respect for Doug Gabriel over there and Betsy for all the stuff they do. John Barnwell as well, I want to also mention him. And I'm prominently mentioned in this episode, and I still don't think, I think Doug Gabriel's getting to know me a little bit. I still think Betsy doesn't quite know who I am. And so the episode's about fake news versus facts and so forth and SES and are we just giving lip service to SES is kind of uh, the whole uh, episode's based on, hey, there's all these guys over here who just say SES a little bit to get your attention, but we're really over here with the facts. Follow AIM. And I have said from the beginning, follow AIM. I love Doug Gabriel. I love John Barnwell, but I also want to explain. Betsy was saying, well, where are these guys' money coming from? Are they Mossad, et cetera? I'm not Mossad. I have gotten tips from people that I believe were involved with Mossad in Europe. I call them the antique dealers of and art dealers of different countries in Europe, and I take intelligence from everybody. So I've been, I think, fairly honest about that. I mean, completely, actually. And I said exactly how much I get in Patreon, about $3,000 a month, that covers um, room and board, etc. here. So, and then I basically follow and do what my crowdsource folks want me to cover. So that's where I move around. And we also have task force here, ex police detective, to help do those, add professionalism and also deep dive research. Okay, so that's us. If you're not familiar with us here on this George Webb channel, but we don't take any money. I can tell you that right now from anybody in any part of the government or anybody outside of the government, from any foreign government, any thing at all. I'm sold two of my houses to do this, so that's what I'm doing here in Washington D.C. So I just wanted to clear away some of the misconceptions. Mainly, I published this list of SES, and I think this was before Thomas was really drilling down. We had both talked about the core SES, but we had really not drilled down individual names. And I put out this list of, Cass Sunstein and Obama and the Comey, Mueller, and so forth. So I was in no way saying that the DOJ, FBI wasn't in the middle of this. I just said it was more FBI, DOD driven. This is more FBI, DEA, CIA driven than it was DOJ. I thought DOJ was the tail, and the dog here was really FBI, DEA. And then I published a list there of some other famous SES people. If you haven't seen this goes back about 10 days now. You can see, people from our series. And I was basically talking about how people from our series are a part of this SES. Here's this Carol Booker McCabe, etc. And I was mainly covering it from a point of view of people who have been in our series, like Madeleine Albright, Susan Rice, Victoria Newland, all these people who had been in our Gmail State Department negotiations, and the Hillary Clinton email server, and the potentially the server from Huma. Okay, so then the next thing I did was started drilling down on other people that we've covered in our series, saying, hey, are these really SES people that are being quoted in the paper? Here's a Jelani, for instance, being quoted. She works for the Office of Secretary of Defense, and then here she is. Is she the Jelani in our series that Luke Rosiak is talking to? Is somebody like a Pat Sowers thinking he's doing the right thing, putting this Jelani in contact with Luke Rosiak, and Luke Rosiak's actually quoting a DOD source. That's the sort of thing I did. But then I went into much more deep dive, and I actually created a list here, a viewing list of SES videos. There's about 19, just where we have SES in the title. And what I did is I just took people at random, like this Will Levy, and I showed how he was a police chief in China Lake, California, how he came here to the Navy Yard to be in charge of security, and ended up being the CIO of the Bureau of Printing and Engraving. Same thing here with this guy here at Okay, it's day 140. Excuse me. Same thing with this guy here at Nav Air, who had basically kind of come from the civilian ranks to run Nav Air. Talked about him again, about the F-35, talked about Suzanne Powers, and Samantha Powers, excuse me, and her involvement with Cass Sunstein at the UN. Now we have the UN team of 12 people being thrown out by Trump yesterday. So, I mean, was that her team of 12? Was the Fancy Bears up there her team of 12? So, I mean, we did a song about SES. Yes, we called it. We took a yes song, we adapted it. So, in no way am I trying to kind of cover SES. I'm trying to drill down. We drilled down on DEA, SES. We drilled down on ways of moving forward to get around some of the congressional roadblocks that have been put in the way about not being able to fire SES. And I had recommended as a partial step to move people back to GS-16 to get them back on the government schedule to get them away from all the special perks of SES. I never meant that as a long-term solution. And I never meant that as a criticism either of AIM. But then I did focus in. They had done some great work on inspectors general. I obviously had drilled in before on Teresa Grafenstein as an inspector general for DOD and also for DHS and then also for the Congress. So when I saw this about inspector general, I thought, this is great. Let's drill in on all these inspector general. There's 25 of them. And then since then, I've done a whole bunch of different, I should probably do just a list on all the things I've done with inspectors general. And Horowitz was certainly a part of this. So, what I've done, and I've kept drilling in on some of these cases on NavAir, for instance, where we really have drilled down. And again, it's just this guy here we drilled down on the gal who had customs. She was at Customs and Border Patrol. We drilled down on this lawyer here who kind of had the soft hands here at DHS Border Patrol. This guy here, this Yeager guy. We were drilling down on all the fake lawyers that were using the SES as a cover for an attorney-client privilege cover. We talked about how they communicated through this BlackBerry network and how to crack the BlackBerry network. We talked about this other gal here who was involved with SES at a very young age, was promoted at a very young age. We just basically took that plum book that was brought forward by Thomas McKibben and just kept drilling down on different examples. So you can watch this, and actually, this is a completely complementary to what AIM's been doing. Doug Gabriel's been kind of talking at, the core level at 500, and he kind of drilled down a little bit, but it really hasn't talked about individual profiles, where I've really kind of done the other thing. I'm building up from the bottom. I first divided an SES into 3 parts. You'll see that. When I said don't throw the baby out with the bathwater I started looking at different sections here saying, hey, we can get these people to give us information. If we don't put them all at $1 while they're being moved to GS-16 to keep their jobs, they can give us information to get the true conspirators and the true, high command out. That's what I was saying there. I think I was talking about kind of my strategy with lawsuits is when you have a big conspiracy, you start on the periphery and get people to give you information about the core, because what you want to do is you want to take out the core. You want to take out the taproot. So here's where I divided the 3 layers of SES. This is where we did the FBI and the DOJ core, FBI and DEA core of SES. Then we talked the next level, which was kind of the WAN level, which is the NGA level, the NRO, the different agencies supporting that, DIA and so forth. And then finally, the final 17 agencies that were in the 3rd layer of the SES. And this is very important to troubleshooting and being able to know what is the core, what is the 2nd tier, what's the 3rd tier, where am I at in the network so I can troubleshoot the network. And then I even talked about yesterday, we made up another song, with the silver hammer, to Maxwell's silver hammer. We made up the SES hammer that Brennan was hammering and Clapper was hammering Trump in the, like Clue in the Oval Office with the SES hammer. And he still is hammering it. This budget bill that they're talking about, that Thomas is talking about, an omnibus bill, I disagree with him in saying that we have talked to people in the Department of Labor that are SES that have said we're doing an outreach program and we're paying for buses, thousands of buses to come to Washington, D.C. as a part of an outreach program. These are SES people in the Department of Labor. I've drilled down on labor, I've drilled on NGA, and this is the important part in understanding everything. If you look at, the whole sweep of history and the rational age and Enlightenment and Francis Bacon, the dissection of the human body, for instance, led to the discovery of anatomy. It wasn't, people postulating about the good and ill humors. You have to do the dissection if you actually want to actually get knowledge. And that's really what we are. We're kind of moving from Galen's philosophy to Harvey's, model of the heart here. And then I talked yesterday about the Awans being an SES placement. Um, Thomas said, hey, has everybody forgotten about Brennan spying on the Senate and how, Feinstein did kind of a cover story for the spying on the Senate? I said this yesterday. Right from the beginning, I was talking about the Russians being expelled and maybe a team of 12 being on the Senate side, and maybe the Awans are a part of a Pakistani team on the House side. Again, I'm in complete agreement with the folks at AIM. I don't know where I'm trying to trip them up or take things for a different turn. Here again, I talked about follow the Navy flags to SES, to the DOJ, etc. I'm going to the root core of potentially, different people like a Steve Pieczenik, not necessarily Steve Pieczenik, to a Kissinger and Kissinger's infiltration strategy, tying that to a larger, longer term strategy of infiltrating all the different departments of government, civilian and military. I hope that answers. I completely support AIM. I support Jason for the long format interviews he can do. I really don't care where he gets his money, to be quite honest. I don't know where I mean, I don't think he has any secret source, but wherever he gets it, I don't really care as long as he keeps bringing people like Robin Gritzford and investigators. I think Peter Schweitzer should do his show. I think, we've got great shows from him, from Charles every Sunday. These are all great stuff. The more focus and sunlight, the better. And we're all on the same team. I do short videos. I don't take away anybody's viewer time. I don't monetize. I'm not interested in a lot of followers. I'm mainly focused on searchers and contributors. I just want nothing but success for AIM.